wasn't attending.
We're good to go.
You can see it right now.
Okay. Good morning or good afternoon, I guess. This is David Lillard, Tennessee State Treasurer and Chair of the Finance and Operations Committee. Appreciate y'all being here today for this meeting. I'm advised by our council that we don't have a quorum for the committee today, but we do have some distinguished members present. So we're going to begin by have an informational session meeting here while we await another member calling in. So we'll begin without a quorum to have an informational meeting to discuss the first item, which is Tennessee State University quarterly update here. Dr. Gentile, did you want to introduce?
Yes, sir. Today we're going to hear from Mr. Jim Grady, who has been working as a consultant at Tennessee State University for, my gosh, it's been 18 months, 2 years. And we have worked as partners through now 2 different presidents with President Tucker now. And I've asked him to come at the last committee meeting, Mr. Treasurer. You mentioned it'd be good to hear from TSU on a more regular basis, quarterly, if possible, with our commission meeting. TSU does have their own committee meetings and board meetings today and tomorrow, but Jim Grady has graciously joined us here today.
Thank you for being with us, and please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Lillard. Thank you, Dr. Gentile. Again, my name is Jim Grady. I'm a managing director with Alvarez and Marcel. I've been working with TSU for 18 months, almost 2 years at this point, working closely with President Tucker and the administration. President Tucker does send his regards. He wishes you all well, and he is very sorry that he cannot be here today to make that presentation. But we will look forward to the discussion as we continue down the road. Just one thing, before I dive into the material, I just want to take a step back because I think it's been about a year or so since I know President Tucker and I met with the commission a year ago in May, I think 25, and just want to set some context. You may recall at that meeting, at that time, we had developed a 5-year pro forma, which I think of as a forecast or business plan, in which over the next 5 years, Tennessee State had the need for about $96 million of funding to get through and execute on its transformation. Then in June, after the meeting with THEC last May, in June, with the work of the folks at the state, Dr. Gentile was certainly one of them, Comptroller Mumpower as well, we were able to execute a memorandum of understanding and thereby freeing up some of the $96 million of funds that had been repurposed pursuant to some legislative action. So I just wanted to set that as some context of where we last left our heroes. And as we move forward, we've been doing a lot since that time. So I'm super excited to talk about that this morning or this afternoon. I'm going to start off with just a brief agenda, a little bit of an executive summary, just to frame some of the things that we'll talk about. I'll give you a little bit good news. Tennessee State has hired a chief financial officer. She's terrific. I look forward to the day where when she can be here to present. She will soon. She's absolutely fabulous. I'll talk a little bit about what she's been working on. I'm going to talk a little bit about the voluntary separation plan that we executed here in the spring. Give you a little bit of an enrollment update, and then talk a little bit about our updated plan, our pro forma forecast. We've got some headwinds and some challenges coming at us here in the next few years, but we're developing a pathway to sustainability. We're going to talk a little bit about that with you. And then finally, cover off on just to show you some liquidity. From a liquidity perspective, where does Tennessee State sit today, and where do we think it's going to look as we get through the next year? So what's been going on? So right now, currently, as our finance committee meeting is going on and our board meeting tomorrow, we're in the process right now of approving our fiscal year 26 estimated budget, along with our fiscal year 27 proposed budget, both of which are reflected in that pro forma, that 5-year business plan, that forecast that I spoke of at the top. Fiscal year 26 was a tough year from the standpoint of our enrollment in the fall missed pretty significantly from what we thought we were going to have in the pro forma in our business plan. But we were able to hold on and weather that storm, both with some revenue opportunities that came at us, in addition to maintaining some fiscal discipline on the hiring side and non-personnel spend, and then some workforce attrition. In fact, our fiscal year 27 budget is nearly $15 million better than our fiscal year 26 estimated budget. What we're seeing there is a lot of some of our scholarships, some of the scholarship challenges that we had in the past that you're familiar with. That is being, some of those folks are matriculating through the system, in addition to TSU now being more and more disciplined on the way that it discounts its tuition, coupled with really a major focus on cost reduction and cost reduction activities. It's paramount for TSU to remain on track with that pro forma plan. One of those cost reduction activities that we executed as we roll into fiscal year 27 is a execution of a voluntary separation plan. In terms of preparation, communications, webinars, education, we did a really good job at spreading the word and educating folks. Unfortunately, when the dust settled, we felt a little bit short on our financial expectations. We were hoping to get about $12.2 million in savings from the buyout plan. We ended up with about 4.8 million. So we've got some work to do on that gap into fiscal year 27 and have a plan to do that. I'll touch on that a little bit more when we get to the VSP. One of the really positive signs that we're seeing, and we'll cover a little bit in a section, is on the investments that we've made in recruiting and in our pipeline are starting to yield results. This slide right now is probably a couple weeks old, and where it says 1,361 confirmed freshmen for the fall of 26 class. I was looking at the numbers on my way down here, and we're approaching around 1,700 right now confirmed freshmen for that fall of 26 class. 1,200 is what's in our business plan or our forecast model for that fall. Just one thing that we added this year that we feel a little bit stronger than we have in past years on the enrollment side is this is the first year that Tennessee State has mandated that you have to at least have a $100 fee to file or to be considered registered and to file a registration. That's something new that had not been done in the past. That's being done this year with this class. That number of about 1,700 doesn't include MELT. Again, I will talk a little bit about that when we get to the enrollment slide on that, but it does not include some MELT. And we do expect some MELT, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. And then finally, as we look beyond fiscal year 27, and as we look as the state's MOU, the way that those funds were designed with the state, we receive the bulk of the funds in this year in fiscal year 26 and 27, and then it starts to tail off as we go into fiscal year 28, 29, and 30. And so we need to start focusing on that positive E&G margin as those funds start to go away. And we've got some things that we're working on with respect to how do we get to positive E&G margin by 2029, 2020, or 2030. We need to execute on the goals in our fiscal year 27 budget. We need to execute on the items that we've already identified in our business plan, which is limiting the non-personnel E&G cost increases, further cost reductions, and then increases as we're seeing 15% year over year as we get to 2030. It's important that we continue to hit on those marks. In addition to that, there's still a gap that we need to close on that E&G margin, and that's where we're looking at some strategies in terms of monetizing some of the real estate assets that TSU has, restructuring the contribution from some of the athletic programs, capitalizing on some of the good wins that we've had this year, as you may have seen TSU making the tournament and the NCAA basketball tournament and the like. We need to do a comprehensive review of all the existing programs, identify and market new and improved programmatic offerings to a broader population to drive more durable growth, and then modify as needed the master plan to ensure that our physical plant priorities are in line with long-term institutional goals. As our enrollment right now, we're projecting into next fiscal year is right around 4,000 roughly. We need to be sustainable in the future. We probably need an enrollment of around 6,500. But that's also, we need to start making some investment in terms of dorms and the like. So that's what we mean about in terms of the master plan and modifying that to make sure that they align with the priorities of the school as we go forward. So I'm going to do just a quick CFO's update. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but I do just want to introduce that the school has hired a chief financial officer. Her name is April Robinson. She's a TSU alum. She's a CPA. She graduated in 2006 with a degree in accounting. She worked in public accounting for a number of years, both a couple of the big fours, and then has also worked in in the corporate world, if you will, in New York for a corporation there. Super excited that she's with us. She started in January right away, looking at the first 120 days. She hit a 30-day reset in terms of the culture of the business office and the expectations and the priorities. She has overhauled the financial aid, or she is working on realigning the financial aid department with the help of certainly of some of the folks at TBR and with some others. And she's also set the tone in the finance office with respect to expectations, doing, closing out the books on a more regular basis. A lot of the things that were lacking from the accounting perspective at TSU in the past, she's jumped both feet in and is starting to implement some of that. She's very focused on the audit findings, creating a plan to track and address those audit findings. That's something that's been lingering with TSU, as this group knows, for a while. And then just one of the budget process. She overhauled the budget process this year for fiscal year 27 and went to a zero-based process, keeping the commitments that we've had in the pro forma and that fiscal discipline on point. As she's moving forward and as we get these budgets approved by our board here in the next couple of days, some new items for her, things that she's continuing to work on is just cleanup of the general ledger, grants reconciliation, looking at the organizational structure, finding efficiencies within the finance and finance adjacent group, in addition to maintaining discipline on the audit and resolving the audit findings. All the while, there's an ERP implementation going on in the background too, as we're getting migrated over to Banner SaaS for HR, finance, and the student. The VSP update. Again, this was we had this in our plan to provide $10 to $12 million of savings. Here's where we ended up. We have about 240 faculty that were eligible for the VSP. There were 43 applications received, 40 eligible applicants. There were 2 folks that decided to change their minds and revoke their application. And then there's two folks that we had to ultimately deny just because of accreditation reasons. We did not want there was a certain program that we needed to make sure we maintain that tenured faculty to comply with accreditation standards. Throughout the 6-week time period, I think it was, we had 57 email inquiries. We had over 110 informational session attendees. We had webinars, I think, once or twice a week. And so there was a lot of information and education that went on with this VSP. At the end of the day, right now, where we're sitting, it's about $4.3 million payout, and we believe that's translating into about $4.8 million of annual savings going forward. Just some numbers or some statistics of the 239 eligible faculty members. Just starting at the retirement status, there were about 100 retirement eligible faculty folks. 75% of them chose not to apply. With respect to tenure status, about 220 tenured folks. There was about 85% of those that just elected to not apply for the buyout. And just economics on the buyout, because I didn't cover that. The offer was 12 months of salary and 12 months of benefit coverage was the offer made to the folks. In terms of years of service, the 20+ category, there were, again, almost just under 80% that chose not to apply. So thought it would be helpful just to give the folks some numbers on that. Let's talk about enrollment. So this chart here is depicting over time, starting I think in early February, the pipeline for our fall 2026 freshman class. You can see the little dotted line there in the middle. That's our target of about 1,200 FTEs. Again, this is 1662. That was as of a couple days ago. I think not right now, as I was coming down here, we're at around 1,700 in terms of first time in college registered students. Again, registered, already having paid $100 to confirm their enrollment. This does not include MELT. when we think about melt, we're probably thinking around the 30% target is what we're thinking. However, Tennessee State doesn't have a lot of history by which to nail down, what an average melt is. But it's something that we're keeping an eye on. We don't have it in here. I think a couple of the challenges when I think about melt, number one, you have students who change their minds, right? Very, very common. Every institution deals with that. I think with respect to Tennessee State, there's another pressure, not pressure, but another factor is that our students, we have been executing purges. And so our students have to be able to fiscally pay or cover their tuition. And so making sure that that is in line will add some pressure perhaps on that melt percentage. But right now at 1,700 with a 30% melt, we're already right around our target for the fall of 26 as far as enrollment goes. The updated 5-year pro forma forecast. So here's a view of the updated forecast going out through 2030. I think you've seen this format before, with a little bit of modification. Down at the very bottom, you'll see a cumulative surplus and deficit line in kind of a bluish shade. We want to make sure that number stays positive. And as you go up 3 lines from that bottom, you'll see the special state appropriations. That is the MOU that was pursuant to the agreement from last June that I mentioned. And again, you can see in fiscal year 26, we received $45 million of funds. We're set to receive $25 million again on July 1st, 2026 to start this fiscal year. And then as you can see in 28, 29, and 30, it starts to tail off. And that's where I come back to my comment on getting our E&G margin back. We need to start to do that now. And so that when those MOU funds go away, Tennessee State University is fiscally sustainable at an E&G level. As I mentioned, when we get into those outer years, and there's a lot of numbers on this slide, all I want to do is to draw your eyes or draw your attention down to the very bottom where it says E&G net surplus and deficit. And you'll see all the way over to the right under the 2030 column in the red circle. You can see right now our latest thinking or latest projections, we're showing about a $6.5 million deficit in 2030. And that's when I say that that's what we need to focus on. That's the gap that we need to close beyond fiscal year 27. We're going to start it in fiscal year 27, but we need to continue it all the way through into 2030 to get that to be positive margin. So that pathway to sustainability, this is just kind of showing a timeline. We've had several accomplishments to date. We've had some challenges, which I'll cover in a moment. We do have right now, we're in this fiscal year 27 budget execution. We need to execute upon the items that are already in our 27 budget. And then as we look out to 28, 29, and 30, there's some items that we've already contemplated in the pro forma, plus there's some other initiatives that we're looking at to also additionally help close the gap at an E&G operating margin level. Some of the accomplishments to date, a few notable accomplishments here, the reduction in unrestricted E&G personnel costs of over $19 million over the last couple of years. That's really attributable to the VSP that we're using, in addition to some of the workforce realignment activities that that were done in October of 2024. We've halted a runaway non-personnel cost trend. We've reestablished a strong enrollment pipeline as we head into the fall of 2026. And we've demonstrated the ability to execute large, highly complex cost reduction in a condensed timeline. That's really the VSP, and that's really some of the workforce realignments that we did in October of 24, which did yield significant savings. What were some of the challenges? As I mentioned before, in the fall of 25, we got hit with a sub 500 freshman class. We're gonna have to play through that for the next 4 years, certainly. We had a lower voluntary separation plan uptake than we expected. Certainly we need to work through that. And then, of course, we have aging facilities and then some inflationary pressures which create some ongoing cost headwinds for us as well. Some of the things that we need to do, we need to execute on the goals outlined in our fiscal year 27 budget. That includes the 1,200 freshmen in the fall of 26, in addition to more personnel cost reductions to close that gap, that $7.5 million gap created by the low VSP uptake. We need to limit our non-personnel E&G cost increases. We need to focus on running a lean operation wherever possible, maximizing on savings on operating expenses. Need to further look at faculty and staff and other areas to reduce. And then just continue to sustain enrollment growth 15% year over year as we get through 2030. While we do all that, we still have a $6 to $7 million E&G operating deficit. And so what are those things that we're going to look at or attack as we get into that to close the gap? Here's that VSP savings I was talking about in terms of we were targeting 12.2. We ended up with about 4.8. We got about a 7.4 number that we need to overcome. We're going to do that with continuing to hire freeze and manage our vacancy savings. A non-faculty workforce realignment. We're going to have to do that here in the coming year. We're also going to take a relook at our reviews of third-party contractors in terms of the OpEx savings. So when I think of like security, I think of custodial, I think of some of those third-party contracts and going through and really combing those and seeing where we can yield some savings on those. And then that's going to get offset. We do need to make an investment in our institutional advancement and our enrollment staff. The President Tucker has talked about, you may have heard him talk about creating about $100 million campaign. To do that, we need to build out our institutional advancement capabilities to bring on that large of a campaign. Here are some of the things I talked about with respect to closing the gap, some of the activities. If I start on the right side, I go all the way down to the bottom. There's that $100 million campaign over the next 2 years that President Tucker has mentioned. There's an advisory board that's been formed, and right now they're working on just on standing that up and getting the structure put together around that. I'm going to continue on that right side on the revenue growth prospect side. We talked a little bit about monetizing the real estate assets, maximizing the value, and taking some of that into our cash to help offset some of this. And then maximizing the revenue potential for TSU athletics and some other special events. Looking at certainly capitalizing on the success that the men's basketball team had. We're looking at, thinking about how we can get football games back onto TSU's main campus and what that would do for the university in terms of revenue generation and even enrollment growth and marketing, but looking at some of those opportunities as well. On the strategic and master plan side, on the left side, this is where we talk about a comprehensive review of all the existing programs. Along with that, looking at offerings at the downtown campus, perhaps improving focus on capitalizing on Nashville's growing and youthful workforce. And then finally, modifying the master plan to ensure that the physical plant priorities grow in line with the pro forma and with our growth goals. Finally, and then I will open it up to questions, liquidity. A lot of numbers on this chart. I'm just going to guide your eyes down to the very bottom, the ending unrestricted cash. Today, or right now, we're probably sitting on about $40 million of cash. We expect to end the month here, the month of May, with about $30,428,000. That's that number that's all the way over to the left at the very bottom, ending unrestricted cash. As you move forward 2 columns to the right, you'll see the month of July. If you go up a little bit, you'll see the MOU cash draw of $25 million comes in. And as you'll see all the way to the end, all the way over to the right, we are projecting right now with these assumptions, it's laid out here, to end next year with about $20 million, which is pretty much where we anticipate beginning the fiscal year. So again, from a cash liquidity perspective, with the $25 million coming in, we expect to be break even, if not better, from a liquidity perspective for fiscal year 27. I've done a lot of talking. I'll take a pause and open it up for questions.
Okay, thank you for that good presentation. I'll note for the record here that Comptroller Mumpower has joined us here during the middle of your presentation. Has been with us by telephone, or by video there. So we appreciate the Comptroller being with us and in just a minute, when we conclude this item, we'll take the roll and commence the actual meeting. But while we're on this, let's go ahead and go forward. Does anyone have any questions of the gentleman in regard to his report here? I just wanted to note, I'm grateful for the report. It's a very good report, and I appreciate the good hard work that represents and everything by the university and by your firm and others. As you pointed out, you've got a number of hills to climb in this process going forward and everything. I guess that we'll need to have further detailed conversations about all the matters that you mentioned and everything. Going forward, is probably not appropriate to get into that today because we've got a rather full agenda here at the moment. But needless to say, we want Tennessee State to be successful, and we look forward to that. So we'll look forward to having conversations in that vein. Commissioner Smith, did you have a question?
Well, just an observation, and thank you very much. This was, I think, exactly the kind of information that we needed. Candor of it, the transparency, everything about it. Just a thought. You're going into a $100 million campaign. Have you thought about outsourcing the infrastructure for that instead of hiring staff that you would then want to shed at the end of that campaign?
Yeah, that's a good idea, and it's something I think we'll certainly take a look at for sure. Yes.
I might have some suggestions about that if you want to talk to me offline.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions to the gentleman at this point? Again, we want to thank you for the good presentation and the update.
Yes, thank you. And I just want to thank President Tucker under his leadership.
Yeah.
It's really, he's done a lot of hard work and a lot of great
Sure.
work.
Please give our regards and our thanks to him. And we understand fully he's got the board on campus there today, and he's got other things going on. So
Okay.
we appreciate his interest. All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go first. Let's have the roll call here so we can get our meeting underway. Would you call the roll, Madam Secretary?
Treasurer Lillard,
Here.
Commissioner Dieter,
Here.
Commissioner Matlock, Commissioner Rader, Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Stafford, Comptroller Mumpower.
Here.
Chairman, you have 4 members present.
Okay, Chair declares a quorum present, and I'll just before we adopt the agenda here, let me just ask briefly, does anyone have a public comment today? Do we have anyone contact the staff about public comment?
Mr. Chairman, no public comment today.
Okay, so we don't see any public comment here today, so let the record reflect there is none. And to save effort here today, I'm going to move that we adopt the agenda and also move the adoption at the same time as a combined motion of the approval of minutes of February 19, 2026. Are there any comments or questions about those minutes? All right, seeing none, Madam Secretary, if you'd call the roll, a combined motion for the agenda and for the minutes. Pardon?
Do we have a second?
Oh, yeah, we did a second. That's right. Excuse me.
Second.
All right, Commissioner Smith, second, excuse me. All right, we now have a second. All right, call the roll, please, ma'am.
Treasurer Lillard?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Comptroller Mumpower.
Yes.
Chairman, you have 4 ayes.
Okay, so those items are adopted then. And so we'll move now, having done number 1, the informational session in regard to Tennessee State University, we'll move to number 2, which is the FY 2026-27 binding tuition and fee policy item, which is an action item. Dr. Gentile, did you want to introduce that item, introduce the staff?
I would, yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Today, we're going to hear from Jason Cavender, our Chief Fiscal Officer, on the tuition update. Is Russell Van Zomeren not in the room? Okay. Russell Van Zomeren is our Assistant CFO. He typically is one that we hear from, but at any moment now, maybe it's happening now, his wife is going to go and bring in a new baby daughter into the world. So we're going to hand this off to Jason Cavender, who, by the way, defended his dissertation yesterday. And I just called him Mr. Cavender. Should call him Dr. Cavender. As Dr. Cavender comes up to the microphone, that's at Tennessee State University, by the way. So there's an outcome in the outcome funding formula walking up here to give you guys more appropriations next year. I did want to frame this conversation here. For the last couple of years, as part of our recommendation, the staff had given no formal recommendation and left it to the commission to have all the information in front of them to decide on it. In conjunction with The THEC Commission now being the TSAC board, and in conversations that we all had last year with NCHIMS, who revitalized our tuition model, gave us recommendations, having a greater look at the portfolio of financial aid and helping make our tuition recommendation and decisions came to the forefront. And as I spoke to you guys back in February at the commission meeting itself, you are aware of the potential of a lottery deficit going into our reserves this year. And if that were to happen, that would trigger pro rata reductions in our scholarships, and then in the future to address the scholarship levels in statute. I said to you in the February commission meeting that the projections were quite conservative in quarters 1 and quarters 2. The revenue coming in, we're going to beat those projections. I still think that's the case, but quarter 3 was not as rosy. So there is still a real scenario that this upcoming academic year, lottery scholarships may have to be reduced. And if that's the case, it might be as much as 3%, 2%, 1%. If it's as much as 3% at some schools, that could equate for our upperclassmen the equivalent of an increase of 1.5% in tuition. So in setting our recommendation here, our tuition model is going to show that some institutions may show a need of going to 6% or 7%. We have a staff recommendation taking into consideration the lottery picture of a 4.5% to hedge against a potential pro rata reduction. With that, I'd like to bring up Dr. Jason Cavender.
Round of applause here.
Thank you all. I greatly appreciate it. It's good to be with you this afternoon, Treasurer Lillard, Director Gentile, members of the committee. And point of privilege, again, thank you very much. Each year, this body sets guiding tuition caps in the fall to give institutions an idea of where this. There we go. An indication where the commission may go should the appropriations request be met. The following spring, this recommendation is revisited and any adjustments that are necessary are made. As you can see here, even as the commission has expanded the maximum increases in the recent years, the tuition increase still remains lower than what it was the prior 15 years. When this body voted on the guiding range in the fall, inflation year over year, the CPI was at 3.1, and the generalized CPI or core was at 2.9. While you can see the data reflect the data that inflation has been calming from pandemic era highs, recent indications that inflation is once again on the rise, spiked largely by increases in energy prices. Full CPI is now at 3.8 year over year, with core CPI at 2.7, down from the fall, but rising and expect to continue to rise through the end of the year. This chart was updated yesterday with April CPI numbers, and that's where the 3.8 comes from. The nominal and real costs are up. The way that I like to look at this chart is if the line is going up, tuition is outpacing CPI. If the line is going down, tuition is not increasing as fast as CPI. So this is one of those rare charts where if the line is going down, that is a good thing. But you'll see there at the very end, the little tail where it's starting to make that turn again. Tuition increases at 4 institutions across the country. Looking at the national context, Tennessee's tuition increases have been on par. Average increase over the last 5 years is 2.6. Nationwide, here in Tennessee, it's 2.4. As you can see, the increases in the Tennessee region, Southeast, or SREB states, has been around 2%. But that number has been held low by states like North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, each of which have had 0% increases, tuition freezes for the majority of that time. Focusing on the two-year sector, we see a similar trend with Tennessee increases on par with national averages. We're lagging slightly behind SREB, where those average tuition increases, again, have been held lower due to those states having tuition freezes. At the November commission meeting, the body met and approved a 0 to 2.5% tuition and mandatory fee increase in combination with a request of $73.8 million for the outcomes-based formula with an estimated 2.5% salary increase. The 27 budget includes funding for a 1.5% increase and $23.2 million for the outcomes-based funding formula, which is, those two numbers are somewhat different. Based on those numbers, the THEC tuition model, and which is included in your materials, will show significant needs at several Tennessee institutions, with an average estimated increase at 7.2% at the universities, 3.7% at the community colleges, and 6.1% at the Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology. However, those materials, excuse me, also highlight key considerations that warrant additional caution about lottery shortfalls and potential impacts on the scholarship portfolio, rapidly rising inflation directly impacting our student and their families, and general market uncertainty based on, should be taken into consideration when setting those tuition fee ranges. Given these concerns, THEC staff recommend a 4.5% maximum increase for all institutions. Provided on the screen are the average additional cost at the Tennessee community colleges, TCATs, and universities under a 4.5% increase. The numbers that you see under the increase column would be the maximum average tuition and fee cost at each one of those sectors. We're not recommending a $5,400 increase in tuition. That is the average. At 4.5%, we have heard from only one institution requesting an exception to this 4.5%. With that, if there's any questions.
Sir, we have that on the agenda for tomorrow. Should the commission set a 4.5%, that would then trigger that exception conversation. But that is Tennessee Tech who's got an exception for it.
Mr. Chairman,
Any questions from the good doctor about that item that he's presented here?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Comptroller.
yes, I make a motion, we adopt the staff recommendation.
Okay, all right, Comptroller's moved to adopt the staff recommendation. Is there a second? Chair will second that, or Mr. Commissioner Smith will second it then. All right, do we have any discussion on the motion that's been made and seconded? All right, we'll call the roll on the motion then.
Treasurer Lillard,
Aye.
Commissioner Dieter,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Comptroller Mumpower.
Yes,
Chairman, you have 4 ayes.
Okay, that item is adopted and the staff recommendation is adopted. All right, thank you for that. Okay,
Thank you.
all right,
Thanks, Dr. Conley.
okay. Anything further, Dr. Gentile, from your standpoint?
Not for today.
All right. Okay, any further business from committee members? Seeing none, without objection, the committee will stand adjourned. Thank you very much. Thank you, Comptroller.
thank you, thank you.